The San Jose Sharks lose 3-2 to the Calgary Flames, and we're here to break it down on Teal Town, USA. You know where to find us. You know us. You love us. You can find us on all the socials, the YouTube, the X, the Blue Sky, the Insta, the Threads, whatever the hell you want to use. I don't really care. Fuck, dude. It's me. It's Landi. We both saw this coming because we logged on here at like the end of like the start of the third period, and I looked and the Sharks had 0 shots on goal.
Yeah, and you know, we were basically taking the poll. How are they going to lose? Are they going to lose, in 10 rounds of a boring ass shootout because they're going to get tied on in the last minute, or is Calgary going to roll all the way back in the third period? It's like the choose your own adventure, the choose your own misadventure. But I don't know that anybody had controller disconnect from Thrawn on the on the bingo card
third
tonight.
Goal was just
it was fucking comical. It was comical. It was like total discontroller connect. It's just like gone, nothing.
So I mean, all right, let's just start at the beginning.
Do we have
see? Listen, unfortunately, we do. It was great at first. It was awesome at first. It was the best thing ever at first.
That's what she said.
And then it was the worst thing ever.
That's what she said.
Yeah, there you go. Will Smith starts off the scoring on a pretty passing play behind the net by Covey. He nets his 15th of the season. Will Smith might be good to everyone who said he was bad at the beginning of the year. Where are you at? It was a nice goal by him. Great job, like right at the end of the period. Good job, kids. You did your job. Logan, my green screen is not cooperating, so we're just going to go with the green screen background until the Sharks play like they care, okay? There it is.
I like green.
Landi, what were you going to say to Will Smith's
goal? No, honestly, I've been impressed with Will Smith in the last, half of the year where, it unlike Celebrini, where Celebrini kind of just hit the ground running when he came out, Will was kind of like a slow burn, right? And so I think we were all not concerned because, of course, this is his first year being a pro, but we were all interested to see how he was going to do throughout the rest of the season. And I've been pleasantly surprised. I've been pleasantly surprised by the effort, but I've been even more surprised by how much his skill has adapted, like the skill set has adapted to the NHL level. Because we were, concerned, him being a super skilled guy, they always take a little bit extra to make the jump to the NHL just because their skill set doesn't always 100% adapt. But again, Will Smith just showing his creativity on that goal. Kovalenko doing some really nice, hard work down low, which is, why you have him. We were talking a little bit about, the trades that Greer made at the run up to the deadline. And, you and I have both talked about, why would you break up the vibes between Zetz and Eki? But, if we're looking at it from a statistic and from like what have you gotten out of the guys traded for at the break, I think we've been left with, a little bit to be desired. And Kovalenko is definitely the poster child for, hey, are you going to get your butt in gear? Are you going to start auditioning for a role next season? Or are you just going to, take what happens to you on the chin? So good to see the what I like to call the dead cat bounce effect, kind of like the coach. When you get rid of the coach from a really bad team, you get a little bit of a life, like a convulse of the dead animal or dead object. So I think we saw a little bit of that from Kovalenko, but he's going to have to show with what he's got left that he deserves to be looked at for a starting spot next year. Because again, he's kind of been enigmatic since he's gotten here.
Appreciate the call out. I did, but I also was the one preaching patience. I would just say that I definitely said that Will Smith was going to be a patient grind to get here, and it was a patient grind to get there. But they made the right call not sending him down. And now look, he's putting up the points. And he's looked good. Like him and Celebrini have looked good, and that's like who was it? Dave. Thanks, Dave. 2 goals, 2 Celebrini points, a perfect tank game. At some point, I'd like to end the tank games, and not this year, but starting next year, we can start moving on from the tank games.
Yeah.
And then shit hits the fan, right? So Adam Klapka with his 4th goal. I believe he scored. I believe he always scored against the Sharks. Like it's just normal for Klapka, I feel like, to score.
Yeah.
Kadri, thank you for my fantasy team, and Ball with the assists, and then it just gets worse. Huberto scores from. Oh, they changed that. I thought that was Frost. Apparently, it was. I believe that was a tip in. Yeah, it was a tip in by Huberto from Frost and Uyghur. That's wonderful, and it's 2-1 like that, and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like the second period was just, a blank. Like pretty much nobody wanted to do anything. And then in that third period, Sharks just decided, hey, we'll put everything on a Swiss cheese goaltender, and look at the resultant, play and look what happened. So yeah, I don't think really, to be quite honest, the outcome of this game was ever in doubt. I mean, look at where Calgary is. They're fighting tooth and nail for every point they can get. And actually, I was more surprised at just how flat Calgary came out in the beginning. Like
Yeah,
that.
considering the fact that they needed this to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, Jules, like just seeing some stuff in the comments, which I want to address as far as like receipt taking and where everybody was at with developmental curves. So people have to realize this. When you're talking about a prospect, not all prospects are equal as far as how they're going to grow out. So, like, especially when you're talking about the difference between Canadian junior guys and NCAA guys, the growth curve is different. And the growth curve is different because of the number of games played at how young. Your junior player typically will play, I think between a 78 and an 82 game season, just depending upon if you're WQ or C, or I guess WQ or yeah, I guess no, WHO, QM, and what's the the third one? Whatever. But anyways, of the 3 junior tiers, they all play, upwards of 80 games, whereas your traditional college player is playing in the 20s. So it was going to be a slow burn with both. And I think we could have had that same expectation with Celebrini, but he's just a freak of nature with how he's played. But with Smith, that was what I was concerned with because of his size, because of the way he plays. He, to me, was always going to be the slower of the burns when it came to prospects. Even when we were talking like Eki versus Will versus Celebrini, I always felt that Will was going to be the slowest out of the curve. And I think we both had talked about, they could take 2 tacks, whether they wanted to pair pair Macklin and Smith together for a year of development, and you keep them paired together, or you send one of them down and you risk kind of losing the vibes, so to speak. So from a growth perspective, I think seeing him with the slow burn and starting out slow was expected. And at that point you would not have faulted the Sharks for sending him down, but instead they keep him up, and Smith is rewarding them with play. So again, I don't think it's like a Jules was going to be wrong about that. I just think the way that it unfolded, there were a couple of options that Sharks could have gone down, and they chose one, I think the lesser of 2 evils insofar as how you're going to develop a real young player. So anyways, that's kind of where I wanted to go with that.
Yeah, but anyways, no, I appreciate that. But again, the game kind of derails from there. And then like it was me, you, and Puckguy watching this game, and then Coronado just scores again, and you're like, what is Thrun doing in the corner? If you guys look at the edge visualizer on like NHL, there's literally number 3 just like standing in the corner, and like it's like a controller disconnected, like you said it on Shell. So that was kind of interesting. That just also, you could argue Romanov should have had that shot from Coronado, but that was a
And then
Lundberg
like
was left to dry.
Yeah, and then Ferraro going down. Like it was just a comedy of error. Like, first off, Thrun positioning. Like what? Like you're leaving your partner completely out there. Well, you at the very beginning when they tried to break the puck out, I don't know if you saw the high forward was looking back towards Thrun, like, hey, you're gonna make yourself an option, and Thrun never did it. Then that's when the controller disconnect happens, and he's watching in real time as possession is lost, and then Mario Ferraro is hung out to dry on a wicked 2-on-1, and then of course you throw in Romanov giving that big old rebound. Like it was just a comedy of errors, like watching it in real time.
Yeah, it
But
was just
but like what? Like Thrun just did not look engaged. And like at the end of the game, he had a chance to get a shot off and he just completely whiffs. Like, man, for a guy who needs to show like, some growth, not a good look tonight.
And then the Sharks do the tease of the year. Will Smith scores with around 2 minutes left, and on the power play, and they couldn't get another one, and now it's 3-2. And they lose this game. Listen, the kids did well. That's all I can ask for. It's what, like game what is it? Like how many games do we have left?
I
Like
don't even like 6.
5-ish maybe. I don't know. They play the Wild on Wednesday. They play the Oilers on Friday. Yeah, they have 5 more games left after today. So look, like, do they need to stop blowing leads, please, for our own sanity? But it's not the end of the world. We knew
We
this
also
season was
really
going to be
don't know what they're going to look like with Askarov and that, right? Because when Askey was playing up with the team, like it looked like the defense kind of had their heads in gear. Now, when you're playing for a sieve like Fjorgiev, who knows what kind of mentality you have on the defense.
Swiss
Probably half the guys
cheese.
in the back of their minds like, dude, this guy's going to give up a goal every time a shot's let in. So it's like, why would you sell out for a guy like that? So again, I don't think it's totally fair to like make a claim on the status of the blue line when you don't have a NHL competent goaltender in net. Sorry,
Yeah.
Fjorgiev, but like that's just where it is, dude. Like you're sub 830 like on the year. Like that's like you're not playing in the league next year bad.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I'm already seeing Mario Ferraro. I don't understand how he played that 2-on-1 for that first Klapka goal. He did the slide, which arguably doesn't work. Not arguably, it doesn't work at all. And it basically just left the passing lane wide open. So Romanov didn't really have a chance on that. Like, I'm sorry, for his defenseman didn't help. Like, typically you either want to, block the pass or block the shot if you can. But listen, like,
yeah, and again, it's that chicken or egg syndrome, right? It's like, how can we really make a full grade on the defense when your goaltending is that bad? But on the other hand, how do you fully review your goaltending when your defense is that bad? It's sub NHL goaltending and sub NHL defensive defensive reliability and defensive depth that you can't really make a good assessment of where this team is at. I think some people saying like, oh, this guy should be gone or this guy should be gone. Again, that's all well and good when you're in the context of knowing where, if your goaltending is good, you can start addressing things on the blue line. But when you've got so much disconnect between the team, whether we're talking about depth forwards, because that's a question again, after this year and how we, traded away some good depth pieces. Now that has to be addressed again in the off season, whether that's via the draft or trade or from promotion. But again, there's going to be at least 4 or 5 forward spots that are going to be in play. We talk about the defense going into next season. I see 3 defensive spots available, fully available. Really, I think the 2 guys that we can kind of pencil in, and unfortunately, we don't like this, but Vlasic, for better or worse, is here, and seemingly Ferraro has some blackmail images on Greer and the management staff or something, but they seem to be pretty gung-ho on him being, the adult leadership on the blue line. So when you've got that many holes, it's like, where do you even start, Jules? Like, at least we know Askarov is penciled in as 1A goaltending. But from there, I don't know that we can make any other assumptions as far as what the team is going to do in the offseason come slots availability wise.
Yeah, I think Ian pointed to this. They do have most of their defense signed, which sucks. But look, Greer has to you can't put Askarov in front of this defense. I mean, I know they did it this year, but you can't throw your 22-year-old goalie out in front of this defense. That's a death sentence. I know Askarov's very good and he'll be just fine, but still, let's not kill the kid. Real quick, Puckguy's here. Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Real quick, some quotes. Trying to be fat, trying to be smart, be physical, be fast. Yep, Covey. And just looking to get a real quick pass to Smith. Yeah, I mean, good. I thought Covey played fine. I actually really liked that line. I know they're young, they're gonna have hiccups, but I didn't mind it, and I wanted Kovalenko to get in the lineup. I know there's stuff there that is rumored, and I'm not gonna get into that.
Right.
But Puckguy, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Glad you guys are taking this on. Just listening to Kovalenko a little bit, after the game, definitely fortunate for the opportunity, definitely to play with Smith and Celebrini on there and trying to take advantage of doing that. It's just got to be really, really nice to see that you get an assist on one of the goals, which is nice to see. But and also drawing the penalty with 2 minutes to go that sets up that power play goal. So you're trying to do whatever you can, and I think for him, he's earned his spot to play in. I think Minnesota is the next game. So it's nice to see. I'm again not too mad about this game. It sucks that they came back from, they were up 1-0. I was kind of hoping Romanov would get a shutout. I think that would have been a huge thing, considering as well, that the Sharks, have some space between the Hawks and everything.
Yeah. Quickly, just before we hop off, a couple things in the chat. Rumor Simcast. Look up Kovalenko Doghouse Warsofsky. That's kind of what we're talking about as far as rumors go on that. As far as Besser to San Jose, I think that's still just nebulous. Like I don't know I don't even think Vancouver knows what the hell they're doing.
It's quite obvious that we're a little early for that, but also at the same time, the bankroll is coming.
At some point we're gonna have to pay these guys.
Yeah, well, Patrick just bringing up Pionk, like that's a good guy to go out and get and to try to, bring some more actual credible adult leadership into the blue line.
That's fine. We'll put Barclay Goodrow on defense.
Oh my God. And because you said it,
somebody say Vancouver.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, look, the Sharks. Listen, I've had Mike Grier's back for the most part didn't like a lot of didn't like the Zetterlund trade. We know that. Didn't like the Hurdle trade. But like he needs to do something this year, right? Like you can't just sit on your butt. Like you have 40 million in cap space, and that's your defense right now. Is hey, you have 40 million cap space. You have enough like fucking draft picks to feed families. So
Plus, if you're going to get a high profile guy like Schaefer, you have to have a guy he can model his game around. And
the
so
caveat with Schaefer is I don't think he comes over immediately.
right.
Yeah.
But again, you have to have some focal point for the defense, just kind of how like they brought into Foley to help shepherd Mackey and Smith. Like you got to have that kind of player. And I'm sorry, but Ferraro and Vlasic are not those players anymore.
See a Schaefer Vlasic pairing? How dare you?
But like if you went and you actually like made a run for Ekblad, could you imagine putting Schaefer pairing him with Ekblad for a couple of years, and just kind of how we had Vlasic and Rob Blake, when Vlasic was real young, like
Sure.
that's what you want to do. So gotta do something.
The thing is that going to happen right away? And I'm not sure if Schaefer comes up, or for that matter, Sam Dickinson comes up. Luca Cagnoni, maybe.
He opened eyes like in his in his stint. He opened my eyes. Kid can play.
But Shakir Mukhamadullin should also be on there. Like he's a guy that I think I know some people don't like him. I think he's a guy that he should be on this roster come opening night.
I think he's done enough to buy his initial way on, Jules. But again, it's going to be you're going to need to keep a constant eye on his development. But yeah, I agree
for sure.
And we should mention right away that Warsofsky did announce that Shakir Mukhamadullin is done for the season. That does include the Barracuda season, so he's not available to the Cuda for the long run. He didn't go into detail whether or not surgery was going to be needed, but I'm sorry, but a guy gets injured on a stupid play, on a retaliatory play. First off, because the guy took his cross checking wrong. Troy Terry was already up when Vetrano went after him, and what's the Anaheim Department of Player Safety doing? Tweedling their thumbs.
Well, yeah, and I mean, do we expect any different from Papa George over there? Because the effort has always been against us. I mean, like, I'm sorry, call a spade a spade. I mean, literally, any time the Sharks have come up, actually since Colin Campbell, the safety department has never taken us into consideration. After those emails came out about Mahalik and
Doug Winey Wilson,
yep, we've never been able to shake that from that department. And then, of course, you put a guy like Peros, who, again, like, just look up how many battles he had with the Sharks. Like there's some personal level of non-biasedness there.
Yeah, it's tough. Jules, back to you.
I mean, look, like I don't know. Mike Grier has to do something this offseason because I don't want to be tanking next year. I know there's Gavin McKenna, and there's always going to be the next shiny prize, and then there's Landon Dunpot, and then I'm sure there's another fascinating one, but like at some point we got to get out of the basement because we need to save that basement for another team. But at some point you want to see progress. Am I expecting them to end up like fourth or fifth last, like fourth or fifth in the standings or what? No, but I am expecting like to see some improvement. Like maybe instead of 32nd we end 27th, or 20 like third if we're really chaotic here. But yeah, like you can only accumulate draft picks for so long before you actually have to start building. Like the Sharks have their foundation set, and they're gonna get their last foundational piece in this upcoming draft with either. They might even get one more in the 2026 draft. Who knows? But yeah. Really quick, Jerry F. Thank you for the super chat. Frustrating loss, but Teal Town thank you for the great coverage. Not Teal Town for the great coverage. Thank you for the great coverage. the most Warsofsky answer ever. We did some good things defensively, played really well through 2 periods. Yes, you played a great 40 minutes of hockey. Congratulations.
Yeah, just listening to Warsaw at the end here, he definitely wanted to compliment Romanov for his play. You just said that, the guys kind of let him down a little bit to where he said, Romanov really played well. He really gave us a chance to win it. I mean, the guy had a shutout going through what, a good 45 minutes of this game. So you give him that, and he's right. They did play fairly well defensively. That's getting better. It's just a matter of time for these guys,
Real quick here, Rob, thanks for the super chat. It should or get off the pod time for Grand War. So next season, I don't want to be Buffalo or what Chicago's going through this season next year. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You wanna see some sort of improvement. Now, don't expect like a giant suddenly they're in the playoffs like improvement. That might happen. That really depends what Mike Grey decides to do this offseason.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too, is that and he even said it, after the post trade deadline press conference availability. It's like this should be the last year of us going down to this level, and we now need to start building up. And he's right, and he's got to get going here on it. But that being said, guys, I mean, we're getting close to clinching it.
Should we do the tankathon?
I mean, I can pull it
Here,
up.
no, I can do it. I think I have better luck than most people on tankathon because
Do you?
Yeah, don't
Probably
ask
not.
me to do it.
I got it. I'll do
As
it.
long as it's not a bet, Jules, which by the
long
way,
as it's
still
not a
waiting for that
bet.
$100.
Oh, that's not happening.
Yeah, it was.
It's not happening. All right, give me a second, boys.
But I mean, it's one of those things going on. One
All
more
right,
of taking
you ready?
the okay. Come on.
We ready?
Big
We're gonna
bucks,
do
no
it.
whammies.
Oh God. Okay, maybe I should not be the one doing this.
You were saying, I
I guess Porter Martone, you are a San Jose Shark.
Woo!
And the good
look at
news is
that.
Chicago drops to 4. The horrid
4.
news is Anaheim is going to end up with Michael Misa. So
Yeah, which they really don't need
no, they really don't.
in our division.
Okay, this is interesting. Boston moves up. Boston, I have no clue who the hell they are going to take. That's like my best guess is horrid.
That's the wait and see approach.
I could see them taking Misa, but I could also see them taking Schaefer because you can pair him with McAvoy.
Mm-hmm.
And last time, there it is.
Oh, now see, that's great.
There it is. And
I'll take the Sharks, but I'll also take Buffalo right behind them.
Well, that makes it interesting because I'm assuming the Sharks are taking Schaefer and then
Misa goes to Buffalo.
Misa. Imagine Misa.
Or do they move the pick?
Look, I don't with the Pagulas running the show, you just don't know. And I hate to say it, but man, since they took over Buffalo, it's been a shit show. And I feel bad for those fans. I mean, we've been saying this for years, but that's a team that has been false started so many times.
Right. So
Let
Chicago
Buffalo draft another first overall D-man up. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. So Chicago's at 54 points. They have 55, 70. They have 5 games left. Sharks also have 5 games left with 50 points, which means with 5 games left, the max would be 60. So your magic number or tragic number, no matter how you look at it, is 7. So points gained by Chicago, points lost by the Sharks. Obviously, for tonight, they lost 2 more, so they went from 9 to 7 now. We're getting close. And one of the interesting things, gang, is that it's kind of funny how, I guess if you stay in that spot, you don't necessarily win the lottery. And
you don't win.
Those, right.
Yeah.
So it's like we could just keep going and going and going. As long as we finish dead last, we're fine.
Yeah, but
I think something
You have to be
DAB
done.
pilot. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jules. I
No, you're
didn't
good.
mean to.
I was just saying at some point you got to be done finishing last.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Dave brought up in the chat. Like it's like you don't want this to turn into Edmonton circa 2012 through 2018, right? Like it just got so bad that they were stocking number one overalls and they weren't moving anywhere. They were actually going backwards. Like that's how bad it was. So at some point, like we've all been saying, you're going to hit the critical mass point where you have the number of futures, and it's like I said, it's kind of a tale of layering age groups and getting that mix just right. But there has to come to a point where you have to get you have to shit or get off the pot when it comes to free agents adding to the group of talent that you already have, to get critical mass point to get them going. So next year, I mean, if we get first overall this year, next year should be the start of really trying to attain contention for the wild card spot, meaning
Right.
we need to see at least a 10-point swing increase in the standings. That has to be seen next year, at least a 10-point increase, or we're going to be falling behind more.
No, I
In my
completely
opinion.
agree. You need to make that next step to take your game to the next level. You can't just you can't have another season like this. And I know everybody's saying, well, Gavin McKenna. Okay, sure. That would be great. However, are you willing to sit through another year of this?
I don't think people are willing to sit through another year of this. That's just
No.
my little take there. But no, look, like there's always going to be the next like prize possession. There's going to be a Gavin McKenna. There's going to be a Landon Dunepot. But the 26th draft is actually quite deep, I think, from what I'm hearing. So who knows? No, but you do want to see the improvement, right? Like,
Right.
you want to see them at least don't finish 32nd. Move up. How many spots? I'm gonna have to see what Mike Greer does in the offseason. Let
Right.
Boston get McKenna? No.
But for all let's paint one little teal streak and a nice little teal light at the end of the tunnel here. We did see in a very underrated metric, but a metric that I think really draws out is differential. And the differential swing between last year and this year is such that there has been improvement in play, right? The points wise, it's going to be about similar as to where we ended last year. But if you look at like underlying metrics, you start to look at some possession metrics, you start to look at some of the face-off statistics, just some of the underlying numbers that say that you're pointing the ship in the right direction. I think you can say that there was an improvement from last year. But what I'm talking about is tangible improvements, as far as like you both saying we cannot end in 32nd place next year. If they end in 32nd place next year, there needs to be even more organizational structural changes that need to happen. And I'm squarely looking at you, Wyan Roskovsky, because again, I'm jury's out for me on him, because I'm kind of in the AJ camp where you were part of the previous regime. You haven't done enough to show me that you're different. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But the guy that I think has the biggest target on his head is John McCarthy. I mean, the years of ineptitude of the Barracuda is not okay, especially with how they've gotten the farm stocked in the last couple of years with some exciting pieces. They need to have made more of a dent and impact than they have.
Yeah, that's I think the big one more than anything needs to be adjusted in the off season. But again, that also depends on the success of the Barracuda. I mean, they are close to clinching a spot. And it's just, one of those things where it's like you're right on the cusp, but at the same time, this team should have been better. And that being said, look how banged up the Sharks are, and they have to loan out practically everybody for the Cuda. Or to the Sharks for the Cuda, excuse me. Let me get that correct here. It's just like, man, you have all the pieces, you just need to bring it together, and here you are still fighting for a spot when honestly, I don't think any of us were expecting us to have the Cuda fight for a spot. That being said, they're getting some help, guys.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the tools are in the organization. If we're talking about, if we're talking about how it's beefed up in the last off season, like you talk about bringing a guy like Ryan Clough back, who's got developmental coaching experience, like that's a guy that you can start bringing into the fold to really, push the it, like in everything in life, there's a balance between having a hand in nostalgia and having a hand in the future. So I'm not one of those people that say you don't want to have any ex players or any former players, like you don't want to have the brotherhood or whatever. I don't believe that you just swear that off completely, because there is value in that, but it's adding brain trust to the brain trust that you already have. So I would love to see something similar where the Giants this year have really embraced a reintroduction of the old school, but still having an analytical approach. That kind of a reset in vibes and reset in how the organization functions is something that the Sharks, I think, would greatly benefit with. And with the uh, organization bringing in alumni, making a big push to do that in this last offseason, I think that does prime next season for more integration of Jumbo as a development coach, or Patty as a development coach, or hell, even, I would love to see Danny come up and take a guy like Cagnoni under his wing, because when I look at Cags, I see spinning images of young Dan Boyle, man. And that, to me, you could really have a good impact on that kid's outcome if you had a guy like Danny whisper into his ear.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, again, Rob, thanks for the super chat. If we're 32nd in 2026, we're so Greer need to get out of here. I don't think Hossa will tolerate another 32nd place year. Again, I can't comment on this until I see what Greer does in the offseason. If he sits on his ass, we'll be having a different conversation. But it depends what Mike Greer does in the offseason. Like, if he rolls out this current team, yes, this is a trouble. But if he does something, we'll see what that something is, and we can talk about it more then. And with that, we're going to wrap it up here. If you want to listen to this again or watch it again, you know where to find us. You know us, you love us. You can find us on all the social platforms, the Spotify, the TuneIn, which didn't even know that was a thing. Not gonna lie. Oh, I did know that was a thing. But anyways, you can find us on all the social platforms. Final thoughts, boys. Puckguy, I'll start with you.
Hey, it's nice to have Quentin Musty come up. Looks like he'll be getting into make a Barracuda push. Looking forward to that. We'll see if Igor Chernyshov is right behind him. I'm curious behind that. Would be a big boost. Same with if Askarov gets some playing time before the playoffs, because it looks like that's where the Cuda will be headed. I would love for them to get a winning streak, to have those 3 games of the first round in San Jose, because right now they are not in a spot to do so. So I would rather them not have to go to Ontario to play 3 games. So we'll see what happens there. But for the Sharks, play out the string. Just give me a damn good effort, boys, here on out.
Landi?
Yeah, I know we wanted to kind of talk about it quickly, but I'd be remiss to say congratulations to Ovi passing the great one on goals. Ovi has been my favorite non-Shark player since he entered the league. I love the way he's played the game. I love the way he's been an ambassador for the game amongst other countries. Look, we might not all love the politics coming from him, and again, it's tough because yeah, that part of the world shouldn't be fighting like that. However, as far as what he's done for the game, as far as him as a human, politics aside, it is really, really good to see Ovi, break the record and be as humble as he has to Wayne, and just the entire class organization the Washington Capitals have been in and around this, and again NHL doing everything with Wayne in lockstep. It's been great to watch. So again, that's really good to see. As far as on the Sharkies front, just echoing what Eric said, I want to see some good efforts. Controller disconnects with 5 games left is not acceptable, and you should be riding the pine pony if you do that. So you know what, Thrun, you're on my shit list, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. My thoughts. 5 games left, I guess. I don't know. Look, just put in, like Puckguy said, put in a good effort here for the last 5 or so games, and there's definitely a light at the tunnel. Let's just say that. Like, there's 100% a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not just gonna happen overnight. So we gotta stick with it here a bit. And with that, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real, teal. Have a good night, everyone.